Hello and welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 77. My name is Jamil Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here as always. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a hot one at Binge Thinker HQ. Literally, it's a stinking hot weekend here in Melbourne. I believe right now it is about 38 degrees. Oh, goodness me. Don't know what that is for the Yanks. Actually, it's 36.4, so it's pretty close. Basically, all of the summer that Melbourne has missed is accumulated in the last couple of days, which is a bit of a shame because it's like 38's fucking hot. It's just, like I'm inside my house now. I've got the AC on. You might hear it in the background, but it's going to be a bit of white noise as a necessity as I am flop sweating, even though I've worked so hard to stop sweating under my underboob, which I should not have anymore. It is a peck, but every time I sweat in that area, I am hearkened back to my underboob days, which is never fun for a chunky boy, right? So, but nonetheless, we push on. Summer is almost over here in Australia. It's almost daylight savings is finishing next month as well. I'm a big fan of daylight savings, where you get a little bit of extra sunlight during the evening. So, yeah, it's a shame to see summer go. I'm a big fan, but hopefully by the time June rolls around and the winter starts to hit us, I will be out of Melbourne. That is the aim, that is the mission. Speaking of the mission, updates about Tech Sales Academy. I've had to delay the release, the public launch of Tech Sales Academy and Tech Sales OS by a week or two. I'm not sure. I know it'll be done by the end of this month. Reasons are because the website is not ready and the doco is not ready either. So the content is like pretty much done. I should have that out by the end of this week, which is fantastic. So the early investors will get the content as desired. It just means that I can't generate revenue the way I would like to, just wait a couple more weeks to get it done, but I'm okay for now financially. Bit of a kick in the guts, but you know what? I used to snark at product owners in businesses when they would tell me, this new product's only 6 weeks away. And I was like, mate, it's like 6 months away. You're just full of shit and you're just trying to hit a deadline that you'll never achieve. And then lo and behold, I get my script flipped, and here it is. It's the reality of what happens. So yeah, I want to make sure I get this thing right. I've been crafting and curating this experience, the buyer's journey, the documentary, for a while now. So there's no rush in getting this absolutely right, nailing it the first time, living by my unique values and perspectives. Okay, just making sure that we do this as intended. And yeah, so it's going to be a little bit later. I don't like missing out. I don't like, dropping integrity and not being integrous to what I say, but this is the reality of the game. Nothing breaks, nobody dies, unless the person that cares the most is me, right? Is that people who've already pre-sold the course, pre-bought the course, they're not paying attention. They're not going, where the fuck's my goddamn course? I would love them to be, ravenous fans, but I think that'll happen in later versions of the course. And the people that are going to buy the course aren't thinking of me until I bombard them with marketing. So, yeah, it's, you got to be flexible. You got to roll with the punches. It's not the worst thing to happen. Yeah, it just is what it is, right? That's the recurring theme of this podcast, or at least my mindset for being Mr. Positive and all that is, it is what it is, bro. But yes, I will get the course out in full by the end of this month. I have no option really, because I am starting to run out of cash. Probably got about 2 more months with of cash flow left before I start getting serious about like, looks like I'm going to be like Lenny on The Simpsons, when they expose his house and it's just him in his underwear with a spoon. It's like, please don't tell people how I live. It's not that bad, folks. Don't worry. But yeah, it's all good. So I do want to go back to, the Tech Sales Academy. My Tech Sales retirement. I know there's been long-winded for some time, but there are plenty of good stories in there. Last week, we did the celebration of the 4 years. I'll be honest, I didn't like how mentally incongruent I was. I don't mind the high part. I just think I should have had some better notes. And I was very tired. So, literally watching feeling my mental capacity shrink. And then I get anxious when I'm tired. I noticed that a fair bit, is that I know I need to go to sleep. I do this stupid thing where I know I'm tired, but I won't drag my ass off the couch and go to bed and go through my nightly routine to a point where my mind gets so tired that it just starts getting anxious. And will just throw just random dumb shit at me. And I'm like, all right, I need to get up and move. Like, this is how old I'm getting mentally. Went out Thursday night for the first time in a while. I saw Yusuf Day's fantastic musician. Great album, black classical music, worth a listen. And I'm out. It's very nice. I get dressed up for the first time in a minute. And I'm looking good. I'm feeling myself. I wanted to go out and just feel myself because I've just been a recluse. I bought nice clothes and I don't get to wear them anywhere. And I just want to, I want to feel nice. I want to feel nice. Anyway, I find out that the show doesn't, like, they don't get until like 9 and they finish at 10:30. And then part of me in my aging brain just goes, oh, fuck, I have to stay up to like 11:30. And I'm like, man, like 5-6 years ago, that would have been not a problem. You would have struggled to get to bed before 11:30, but now you've just become this bum, not a bum, but just a more aligned individual. I have to fight this idea that, going to bed at a reasonable time and getting a quality night's sleep is not lame. And that it's cool. Like, it's cool to just be a bit of a boring old sod and focus on really valuable, meaningful things that occur during the day and just leave the night to be the night, to rest and to be. Like, I mean, to be fair, most of the things I love doing the most, like comedy and music, do occur at night. So I do, at some point, will have to get my sleep cycle back to a bit more, a little bit more night friendly and have a bit more flexibility in my day. But that time is not now. And especially now where I am in, and I got to lock down a little bit longer, just to the rest of this month. That's what I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for this week, is just to knuckle down for these next 3 weeks until the end of April, start of April. I'm going to Mexico in less than a month. So just lock the fuck down, be a bit boring for a little bit longer, right? Because what could happen is that I release this course, April 1st, the video goes well, people love, the course, the first version. I got the testimonials lined up, and I spend a beautiful time in Mexico watching money come in, watching, people buy the course, loving the content. And I get to spend, time in Tulum and in Mexico City, just connecting, enjoying life, and get this beautiful burgeoning of this new career and watching it come to fruition, right? And that's what I've got to look forward to and aim for now. It's just to slow down. Yes, okay, temper yourself. And then, I'll have a week in Tulum, which is like a party town, beautiful beachside city, heaps of great beach clubs. I'll be there on 420, right? So, I deliberately made sure that I left Tulum on 21st of the 4th, which is, I think, a Monday or a Sunday, I can't remember. And I was like, I'm going to delay check-in. I'm just going to take an extra day and just, drag my butt through from Tulum back to New Mexico, back to Australia, and just let it be, because I want to enjoy myself, right? I want to enjoy the beautiful beaches. Maybe I'll become an influencer for a minute. I mean, it's good marketing to be like, hey, here's that course. By the way, I'm partying in Tulum. Thanks for the money, everybody. Thanks for affording this. Which is what you want, right? It just sounds, that's what you want. You want everyone I'm creating mutual value for people that hopefully they can make sick cash and enjoy their lives and do more, right? It's a reciprocal agreement. There should be nothing wrong with me enjoying the fruits of my labor. But alas, I shame myself for some reason that I think it is. But anyway, that's what's coming up ahead, folks. A couple more weeks of grind, getting this product right. Very excited by how it's panning out. Got some great feedback from Matt Gray's team, my business coach and mentor, about the progress of my course, from experts that have sold and managed 6, 7, 8, 9-figure courses. So they're saying that what I've got is great, is really good for a first version. So I'm like, fuck yeah. Then, we get it out there, we get some feedback, we sit back, we listen to what people want. I've got a heap of new lessons to ship and get right. So we're constantly delivering more value to the customer, giving them great value, consistent value all the time. And then yeah, I have to learn and figure out what does life post-launch look like? What does my day-to-day look like, where I have to balance between course creation, between marketing, between growth. Yeah, it'll be an interesting balance to figure that out, figure out that new schedule and that new routine of mine for a couple of months. But I'm looking forward to it. Like if I can just be creating something every day, you know, I think ideally my first goal as a business operator, non-financially, my target is always to be at 30K a month minimum monthly recurring revenue. That is one course a day. If I sell one course a day, I'm fucking set for life, right? That's literally it. If I sell one course a day, even at the reduced rate of $6.99, right, that's still, what, $18,000, almost 20, what's the math on that? Let me just do some quick math. Because what kind of Asian am I? Come on, this is disgraceful. I'm getting hauntings from my ancestors just doing this on a calculator. So let's just call it $6.99 times 30. Yeah, it's $20,000 US. That's fucking good money, ladies and gentlemen. So what's that? $20,000, $240,000 per annum. Yeah, that's great. Especially because that money, I still have costs. Don't worry, I have significant, not significant, but I've got costs. So I have to manage my own lifestyle. But the tax rate on that income is lower than what I would be paying if I earned $240,000 US through a PAYG or the Australian regular tax system. So I would still be at a net negative or net positive overall. And yeah, 20,000 US a month, whew, that's like almost $30,000 Australian at this point, which is crazy. Man, the economy stinks. But what do you do? What do you do? Before I kick off into I want to go back into the the history of my tech sales career. I want to go into the Cisco years, which is pretty nice and meaty and fun because that has been the catalyst towards all this exponential growth over the last 2 years, let's call it. I found something very interesting over the last week in society, and I'm just going to share it. So you might know a comedian called Shane Gillis. As someone that I'm a comedian, I'm very aware and a big fan of the American comedy scene. It is the hub and the central hub of comedy. And Shane Gillis was a comedian. He's from the south of the US, and he kind of is construed as like a conservative guy because he's like a tall, kind of jockish, footballer-esque kind of dude. And he got kicked off SNL because he made some not really politically correct jokes on his podcast at the time, and cancel culture was in full effect. And yeah, he got dropped from his position because he made some Asian jokes that admittedly weren't great and off taste. And as someone that's a comedian, I can go, yeah, as an Asian comedian, actually, I can say on two levels that it wasn't great. Not to say that it was deliberately hurtful or harmful or anything like that, but I can understand where it's a clumsy misstep where he just sort of made he did the Asian accents and was very clumsy in his approach to doing the stereotype, if you'll know what I mean. And coming from a white jock dude where everyone's so sensitive about race and, that's very clearly punching down, he got booted from SNL, which I think is unfair. I mean, it's not a great thing to do, but it's also not a great reaction, but that's the zeitgeist of this politically correct environment that we live in. And that happened about 2.5 years ago. And since then, Shane has rebounded really well. He is undoubtedly a fantastic comedian, a great comedic actor. He's created some great sketches on his own. And he's risen through the ranks. He kind of got picked up by I guess you would just call it like the conservative aspect. The center-right really picked him up and were like, well, if you're anti-woke, which he's not trying to be anti-woke, but, because he was making, I guess you would call conservative kind of jokes, as far as just making, just dumb racial jokes, he got picked up by the other side, which is what happens, right? Is that these identity politics on the left and right hand sides are just really just polarizing people. And if you get discarded by the left, then you'll get picked up by the right and vice versa, right? But Shane's made a big comeback. He's released a great special on Netflix. And now he's actually come full circle in the last week, or last 2 weeks, where, 2.5 years later, 3 years later, after he got kicked off SNL, he got to host the show. And that's a great achievement. It's a great comeback story for people. It's a great comeback story for Shane. I've enjoyed his comedy. I think he's very funny. But there is undoubtedly, all right, that for me, him making it back onto SNL as a host just goes to show that the pendulum is swinging back politically. Is that the loudmouths, the noise of cancel culture and the left of all these, oh, how dare you and how dare they, and this is disgusting, and, I'm hurt and triggered and all that sort of stuff. People are fucking sick of it, and you have now pissed off the silent centrist majority, and now you are going to see the pendulum swinging back of conservatism. Right, you've had close to a decade of this liberalism, resulting in just warped perceptions of what a fair and just society should be. The extremes of the trans agenda and gender nonconformity, whilst all valid, just the repetitiveness and the honing in on that. There's just the constant barking of that over an agenda of people that are so few in number, but seem to, again, be just so heavily politicized in this leftist versus rightist agenda. It's pissed off the middle. And now you can show that, institutions, comedy institutions like SNL are listening. They've got their finger on the pulse of society. And they've realized that, the pink dollar isn't as lucrative. Leaning into these leftist ideals is not as lucrative. And people are getting sick of political correctness because it became the pedestal, right? Political correctness became the pedestal. And it's a comedian's responsibility to be the court jester and knock things off the pedestal and ground them and bring them down to earth. And we've seen that in hints over the last 18 months, but 12 months, where people are making jokes about pronouns and people are just, being snarky about the trans agenda and going, it's a bit much, right? And I think people are just getting sick of being told what to do or how to think. And honestly, I removed a tirade a couple of weeks ago on the pod about this, but I'll do this in a much more calm manner. It's just that, as a left-leaning person, I don't even know if I am left enough or accepted by what's defined by the left community anymore. And that huge fragmentation of, am I a good person in the eyes of society according to the leftist agenda, depending on where you look at it, I'm never enough. Right? Because I'm saying, not indifferent, but silent about Palestine. Because I'm not fighting for the rights of, trans people who would be what? 1%? Less than 1%, maybe? 1 to 2% of, a general population in general. And fighting for those rights and bringing them into the top. And not, seceding or succumbing to DEI, which is diversity and equal opportunity and whatever that is, equal investments, whatever that, methodology, whatever that is. Sure, it is relevant and useful, and this definitely has lots to it, lots of benefits to it. Don't get me wrong. But when you start defying common sense, which is what is happening, is that we are not being rational about these levels of discussions, you are pissing off the silent majority. And now that silent majority has been going, yeah, all right, we've had enough now. And there's relief in Shane Gillis making jokes where people say things are gay or he's saying retarded, right? Is that people want that back because they know that they're not doing with intent to be mean or to be denigrating to gay or retarded people, right? So Gillis defying these, what are they called? Not industries. But these mastheads and these ideas of the critical culture of the leftist ideal that we're supposed to be aiming for as a society, it's falling over. I mean, if you look at, for example, like if you were to think about in politics, the beacon of liberalism, which is, the leftist ideals of democracy and equality and, all the good things that we hope to have in society, which is represented by the American Democratic Party, is rapidly falling to shit. As in, the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, is incognizant. That guy needs a sleep. He does not need to be in charge of anything anymore. He's done his job. Let the man nap. But no, the military-industrial complex, the war hawks, right, that we can see blatantly behind, the Democratic Party, right, of setting up Ukraine and, what's going on in Israel versus Palestine. Right, we can just see the military-industrial complex interests in full display, blatantly behind this rapidly falling over facade of irrationality in both the leader of the free world and the values that they represent. Where in liberal places like San Francisco and California, in very leftist areas, the fabric of society is collapsing. You're hearing about San Francisco, one of the wealthiest cities in the world as far as like tech investments, the home of Cisco, a lot of tech organizations becoming like a tent city. And people are just shitting on the street, and it's just rampant theft and violence because we're like, oh, let the people be how they want to be. No, there is a degree of order that is required in society. We created laws and created standards to begin with. And now, under the guise of, the agendas of a few powerful few, we are seeing what excessive, I guess you could just call it leftism, is doing to society. And it's not rational, right? It's like neither extremity is rational. They are extremities. They're extremities and ideals, often caught up in some ridiculous perspectives that are highly flawed. And it is up to us as a conscious society to be making rational decisions with the best information possible that serve the best common interests of the people. And yes, democracy is very slow and inherently flawed because you allow a lot of people who are often misinformed and don't even think deeply about the choices they are making in their own lives, let alone the impacts that they will on society, have a say. Now, is it better than totalitarianism? Yes, right? Absolutely it is. But maybe there's something in between because it's not working, right? The system is not working, particularly as now societally we understand how vulnerable and how influential or how much we can be influenced by our environment, by advertising, by interest groups that are, putting shit up on social media to influence our perceptions, right? Like, particularly, this is what I talk about in the sales course, is how perception is so easily manipulated by advertisers and marketers. And I teach my students how to use these tools in their favor to create solutions to be seen positively and to build positive brands with their customers, right? There is an element of my course which feels like a dark art, which is this concept called mental engineering. And what is mental engineering? It is you being deliberate and intentional of the way you present yourself to customers to formulate a quality brand to show that you are trustworthy. And that by showing up consistently, by adding value, you are intentionally engineering the perceptions that you are received as by your customers to be positive. And that seems manipulative to some people, and it seems a bit manipulative to me. And that's something I had to get over as a seller. But when you recognize that marketers, advertisers are doing that to you consistently to sell you shit that you don't need, right? If if the footy is back, if you watch any sporting event and you're like, why the fuck are these advertisers just putting their goddamn name up on every piece of available platform there is, on the boundary line, on the scoreboard, wherever it is, because they know it works. They would not spend their money on this shit if they didn't know it didn't influence you towards buying things. You can repeat the same shit over and over and over again to a person and condition that into their mind through strict repetition, right? That's how you practice getting better at anything. So if you're subconsciously unaware, having the same exposure over and over again to the same thing, it's gonna go into your mind. It's very similar to like when you hang out with your friends and you pick up their sayings or you pick up their particular behaviors, right? You're not actively doing that. You just pick that up by being around them. So yes, we're being manipulated, and maybe it's the thing about that is that we don't like to know we're being manipulated. The ego, the human ego, likes to operate from a perspective where it is not found and not exposed. And very often we will have this bias, right, a cognitive bias between what we believe others to do and what happens to us. But we might say, yeah, other people might get influenced by marketing or advertising, but that shit doesn't work on me. Meanwhile, you've got Nike clothes, right? You're drinking a Starbucks coffee. You've got your preferred brand of car. You're driving an Audi just like me, right? That's what happens, is that as a society, we don't like being exposed for our individual accountability to this shit. And it's an interesting mix that the society we're in right now. But to go back to the point is that, yeah, man, I would keep an eye on it. You're going to see more conservative jokes. You're going to see less, well, not conservative jokes, but you're going to hear more politically incorrect shit come out, right? And yeah, you're going to see a swing back. I think, though, I hope that alongside this sort of societal way, this trend, particularly in the youth, in men, of self-improvement, something that I've been on as well, is that we come back to a much more rational, for a little while, a rationality where that pendulum doesn't swing so much to the extremity of the conservative movement, where we come back to things like having a faith in God and respecting healthy masculinity, but we as men have to cultivate that healthy masculinity first. Where, yes, there is a patriarchy. And at the end of the day, if you don't believe there's a patriarchy, well then, ladies, go fight the wars. Go pick up the spiders, go fight the fires, go dig the trenches. And if you don't, then you're relying on the patriarchy, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Men happily want to do the grunt work if we believe we're in a healthy reciprocal relationship with our feminine, if we believe that they're taking care of us and they can look after us emotionally as well as physical needs, of course. And that's the ideal that I hope for, is that we get to a nicer middle part. But I will say for now, if you are left-leaning, and I'm talking about far left-leaning, though I'm not sure if you'd be listening to this podcast necessarily, keep an eye out, because there's going to be a much less tolerant narrative coming out over the next 12 to 18 months. And you're going to hear a lot more gay and a lot more retard and things like that. They're going to pop out. I'm 100% certain of it. Because, it ties in well with like culture being so fragmented by the breadth of information and perspective that's available to us. The monocultures are going to cease and desist very shortly, and already are breaking down based on our individual ideals and the communities, the smaller tribes and communities that are linked by commonalities of information, that we will be in informational tribes in the near future, which has its pluses and minuses, right? The fact that there's a lot of information, a lot more truths available to us in varying degrees about society, about the economy, about the misdeeds of government. They can't use the media to, redact certain information. We're seeing through the veil of neoliberalism and conservatism, and it's all just one same shit, right? I think there's a very strong chance that Trump's going to come back this year. I just honestly, if Biden wasn't physically, mentally incapacitated, he would have somewhat of a chance. But I can't see Biden living another 4 years. I really can't. I really, really can't. And that's ridiculous. That again, these systems are propping up, well, Trump is there at a straight tyranny and having the majority vote of a frustrated middle and lower class, and perhaps, an upper class that is well funded as well. But with Biden and the Democrats, for me as an outsider, here's my thing. I'm not pro-Trump, but things were a lot quieter on the war front without Biden and the Democrats around, right? Is that we understand that Ukraine, it was actually negotiated for peace. But what happened is that the UK and the US told Zelensky, told Ukraine to tear up the agreement that Russia had for peace with Ukraine to maintain their agenda of expanding NATO into Ukraine, which they shouldn't have done in the first place. Right? This is a lot of me listening to RFK, I'm going to be honest with you. Which is so true though, but I looked it up, I did the research. And you're just going, hey, you could easily cut off Israel from bombing Palestine. Easily. Just be like, hey, we're withdrawing our support. Because if you look at Israel, that fucking pinprick of a state surrounded by billions of Arabs, you're not telling me that if it wasn't for the US and their ability to store nukes and probably their backhanded agreements with Saudi Arabia because of all the oil, that Israel would not be crushed like a bug if it wasn't for American support? No fucking chance, mate. No fucking chance. Anyway, that's my political and socioeconomic rant over, I think. But yeah, useful insights. Because one of the things I do enjoy being an outsider and having this comedic perspective is this observability of society. And I don't think I'm really that far ahead of anyone else that's talking about this stuff, but because I'm not afraid to talk about a lot of things and just be blatant about it, I often say things that other people might be feeling but are too afraid to say, or maybe had sensed it but not had articulated it. And if you agree with what I'm saying, if you think you've got a point, please reach out, DM me, YouTube comments, email, whatever it is, right? Let's have a discussion. This is just a bit of fun. We're pontificating, right? We're analyzing. But yes, the pendulum is swinging back. I don't know how you bet on that. If I was a betting man, how could you articulate that better? How could you make the most of that? I don't know. But within 12 months, I think people are going to start saying gay again in the street. And it's going to be a real clash in all of the leftist areas, all right? Probably not in Melbourne because it is such a lefty sinkhole. But you never know. You never know. We'll see what happens. The culture wars, I think they're going to get a little bit worse before they get better. We'll see. All right, that's that segment done. I do want to come back to some political hot takes on this pod once I've got a little bit more bandwidth to create this a bit more. Anyway, so let's get back on track, my tech sales career history, right? So last I left you, I was in the woods, I'm unemployed, I'm burning through money, I'm focusing on ACN. I've got the concept for Tech Sales Academy, but I park it because I want to focus on comedy and ACN. That's the person that I want to be. So I get this job. I apply for this job at Cisco. A friend of mine, Chalky, it's his old role. He's like, the money's a bit low for what you're used to, but you might be able to negotiate, and it's a decent role. So I go, okay, let me apply for it. I actually negotiated a rate that was more than I was earning at Telstra. Plus, I got a few more perks as well, such as really good health insurance, and my pay was plus super on top, which was really good. My OTE, my on-target earning at Telstra when I was a BDM was $165,000 on-target earning, $165,000, but that included super. So you take 10% of that, and that's actually, it's 150 realistically. And then again, full disclosure, I don't mind telling you people, since it doesn't matter anymore, I negotiated a rate of $170,000 up from $120,000. So $170,000 on target earning, plus super on top, plus some very good premium health insurance, which just comes part of the package at Cisco. So that, I mean, for me, whew, that's good. I'm making more money. Is it as much money as I thought I was worth? No. I honestly thought I was worth at least $200,000, if not more. But an important thing to remember is that I took this role I took a pay cut for a freedom raise. And by moving from an account manager role where I had to manage the customers and have to deal with 4 different architectures and all of the complexity of that, which is what I did at Telstra as an account executive and as a BDM, I decided to get, I don't have to see customers as much. I'm only there for one architecture as a specialist. There's a lot less workload that I'm required to do day to day because I've only got one architecture to focus on. I'm not the face of the brand. I'm only brought in when needed. So there's a lot less pace to it because I've got ACN and I'm trying to build that up, and this is a virtual role. I can work from home 4 days a week. There's a lot more flexibility, right? There's a lot more freedom. And, as long as you're making your number, like I said before, nobody gives a fuck what you do. So I negotiate the pay, great, get the role. I joined basically two years ago this week, pretty much. I think it was March 7th, 2 years ago. Oh man, time's fucking flown. So, joined up for Cisco, happy to be there, good company, knew it was a big American company, didn't really deal with them too much when I was working at Telstra. I mean, I sold a lot of Meraki, but that was through partners. I didn't really do a lot of direct engagement with the Cisco team. And I'll say this, and I say this multiple times, right? It's like I was dealing with the same account managers that I was dealing with when I was in Telstra. And so those account managers was the team that I was in when I joined Cisco. And when I was outside Cisco and I was dealing with these Cisco AMs inside when I was from Telstra, I was like, what the fuck do these account managers do? Because they did nothing. And then I went inside the business and sat behind them, going from account manager to specialist, and I'm looking at them and I'm still going, what the fuck do these account managers do? And I feel for them, right? It's not like I'm shitting necessarily on them, and some of them might listen to this podcast. I'm going to be real, folks. If you were in my sales team, you're probably going to hear some shit that you're not going to like, but this is just the honest truth of where it is, and deal with it. It's the past, move on. Is that I don't feel for these guys first and foremost because they're early in career, young, fresh sellers. Some of these people have zero tech sales experience previous and don't even have any sales experience to begin with. I mean, the hiring policies, things must have been dry and it must have been rough and very difficult to get decent sales talent if you're hiring people without any sales background as account managers. Terrible. Anyhow, so they're struggling, they don't have any tech experience, they don't have any sales experience, and now they've got to deal with all of these different technologies that they have no fucking idea what it's about. Their attention is spurned in 7 different directions from every architecture, plus looking after the customers, plus looking after their requirements inside the business. And it's complex stuff. Even me, 7 to 10 years into this game of B2B tech sales, I still don't know everything. I don't pretend to. So I've been in their position. I've been in a worse position than them when I started because they didn't have to deal with billing or, very few service issues. I had to deal with so many service issues, all right? So I know where they come from. I've given them some benefit of the doubt, but I'm still like, ugh, what's going on here? Anyway, as part of my role at Cisco, I have to be a supporting role instead of the front line to these account managers. And I'm selling data center, I'm selling servers. They're not fun, they're not sexy technologies, right? They are boring technologies, and I know that. And I knew that coming in. But because I had some experience in selling cloud solutions and I knew the data center ecosystem well because I'd got a case study with Nutanix, I've sold millions of dollars in hybrid cloud deals over my time, a lot of public cloud rebuilds and things like that. I know the ecosystem well. I understand the value of server technology. So that's why I got this role and was, easy. I went through the interview process pretty well. So I join, I sign up, and I'm not used to being behind other account managers. I am used to being the front and center of the show. I'm used to leading, my opportunities, my customers, and realistically, I'm sitting behind sellers that are much less experienced than me and have a lot less capabilities than I do. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating because, one of the issues about Cisco, and I don't know if it's everywhere else, but the account manager is a protected species inside Cisco. And I think it's in almost every tech sales organization, because with the account manager, you're seen as, the account guy. You're the face of the brand. There's a lot of investment that goes into you, and you're the leader of the team. So all the glory goes to you when things go well, and all the shit goes to you when things go bad. I've been there. It's just part of the process. But when the spearhead of the organization of your business, right, the account manager is blunt, is inefficient, and doesn't know what it's doing, and doesn't know how to manage an opportunity properly, and doesn't know how to manage a process or a customer properly, that has downstream issues and effects on the sales performance of the team, the customer experience, right? It poisons everything because of its inefficiencies, right? So then as a result, because these account managers don't know anything about my architecture, right? They don't know anything about data center. Cisco is a networking company, right? They are about networking, routing, switching, all that stuff first. They've got 4 architectures. They've got networking, enterprise networking. They've got data center, which is where I was. They have cybersecurity. And then last, they've got collaboration. Now, cybersecurity, collaboration, hot topics. Networking, Cisco's core business. Servers are the second biggest architecture in Cisco by sales volume, but no one understands it culturally inside the business except for the DC people. It just becomes too complex and boring for people to understand and wrap their fucking minds around that these are big computers, right? Big chunky bits of RAM, big chunky bits of compute, and graphics cards and all that sorts of things. And don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit bored by it too. I still don't really understand how a computer fully works. And I want to learn that, because it is the reason why we are being disrupted by AI. But so because I have to rely on, I'm intended to rely on the account managers to find opportunities for me so I can run with them and close them, I'm really at the mercy of the mind share of how much these account managers know to find an opportunity and to identify opportunities for data center, pursue them, and articulate them. And they don't. Straight up. None of them really cared to learn the architecture except for one of them. They know it's complex. They know it's boring. It's complex for anyone, right? So the mind share was very low for my architecture. And as a result, my numbers suffered. And I thought that, there's no point if I was to leave my success up to the proactiveness of the account managers that I was with. How many did I have? I think I had 5 or 6 at the time. If I was to leave it up to them, I'd be dead in the water and not making my number. That's just the reality of it. And realistically, for the first half of the year, which was from July till January so let me take a step back. So when I joined the business in March to June was basically dead air time, where I was learning the ropes of the business, doing a lot of training. Realistically, I wasn't doing much in the business at all. Realistically, I was doing a lot more for ACN and getting the content up and going, and the training that was involved with Cisco sucks, and it's not engaging, and it's dunk. And I still believe that now, and people still recognize that. So I really learned, again, all the things I knew about how to sell, how to manage the business, how to do my thing on the job, just getting my hands dirty and recontextualizing everything I knew about sales, and then just learning Cisco systems and how to manage them and manipulate them in my favor. That's basically what I did. So from July to January is the first half of the year. That's when I start. That's when I'm in the driver's seat of my own portfolio. It's like, okay, now I have to learn how this game works and, drive my number. And that first half, I missed my number by 6%. I got 94 point something, which is not bad for a guy, who has, that role was vacant for like 12 plus months beforehand. So the pipeline was dead. Nobody's thinking about DC, right? It's a dead patch where no one's really maintaining it. To get to 94% is pretty good for a first half. But in my mind, as someone that has not missed their sales number in pretty much a decade, that really pissed me off, because I had a degree of pride and still maintain a degree of pride in what 5.5 years or 4.5 years, no, 5.5 years of never missing number of B2B sales, averaging 140% roughly. I can't remember off the top of my head. So that hit me in the gut that I did not make my number. And it really pissed me off because it was a real hit to the ego. Because around this time as well, right, come around September of 2022, I ruptured my bicep tendon in December 2022. Holy shit, has that been a year now? God damn, since it's been fine. Holy shit, man, this time is fucking flying. Anyhow, I ruptured my bicep tendon in September 2022 after I just got back from Austin, after I got back from the US, and I had an amazing time in Austin, and I was like, I need to live here. I ruptured my bicep tendon. I'd given up on ACN because it wasn't working in that period between March to September. It just was not working. It sucked as a platform. It is what it is. But I decided that, after my arm had healed, I would put attention back onto Tech Sales Academy. So that was probably around November 2022. Okay. So then I'm like, okay, let me see if I've still got it, if this information is still relevant, because I've seen in Cisco to go, oh shit, nobody knows a goddamn thing here either. Nobody knows about technology sales. Nobody knows about strategy. Nobody knows about customer experience, relationship management, none of that shit. None of it. So I'm like, oh, this is actually still quite relevant. But again, I was focused on ACN. But so just as I picked up the idea of I should really pick this up as a business idea again, I missed my sales number. And I was like, oh, maybe this is not for me. But I was like, no, fuck. I knew that I was slipping. I knew that I was not working to my ideal. I was lazy. I was not that focused in that first half, because realistically, when I was at Cisco at that time, it was challenging. I didn't know if I fit in. I didn't know if I belonged. I didn't quite get the business. I didn't really care for it. I was a mercenary. I wasn't a missionary. I didn't really have that intention to, really serve the brand. I was there to make money and close deals, which I don't like. It's not in alignment with who I am to not have purpose behind what I do. So I was like, I'm just doing this to get money so I can get the fuck out and, build another business. It was shaky, but I was like, look, just rest it out. You know what you're capable of. You have to change your strategy, because sitting behind these account managers who don't give a fuck about you, your architecture, they're too busy in 7 different directions elsewhere to focus, to build pipeline. You've got to own this shit, all right? You've got to go back to your ways and own your business the way you used to, and get your pride back and start making some fucking numbers. So that's what I did, is that around that January mark, December, January mark, at a low point when I knew that I wasn't going to make my number, and I was furious. And I told my manager, I'm like, all right, we're going to have to change my approach here, because he didn't think 94% was a bad start, but it's about my standard here. It's about what I know that I'm capable of and what I was slacking on, right? I was slacking because I was like, fuck it. These deals seem to be coming in passively. I could get by with just, letting things skate. Because realistically, I was only working about 20, 25 hours a week on Cisco stuff. And I wasn't really working because I barely knew the products and the services and the solutions. I knew some of them, but I was learning on the job. But it's not like I had a confidence at the time. It did take me about, I never would say I got full confidence in the role. Pretty confident, and I didn't know the products end to end like I used to at Telstra. But yeah, it took me some time to get some confidence in the role. and get those big deals over the line, which happened a lot in the second half, which we'll talk about in next week's episode because I'm seeing that I'm running out of time now. But yeah, around that December, January time, that's when the tide started to shift. And I'm like, fuck this. I've got to lean the fuck in. I don't like being out of integrity of what I'm capable of as a salesperson. How can I be top 1% in a business that was chaotic at Telstra and then now be at 94% when I've got way less work to do? Way less work to do. Right? I've always said this, going from Telstra to Cisco for me was like running a marathon to jogging. Is that my mental capacity and bandwidth for the amount of volume and work and knowledge that I had compared to what Cisco was is fractional. Because again, 5 architectures down to 1, don't have to deal with billing issues, don't have to deal with internal process and bullshit. I can just palm that off to the account manager. I should be absolutely crushing my number. And yes, I was distracted. And yes, I had a ruptured arm, so I was a little bit immobilized for a period of time. But again, I know my integrity to myself. That's what is important. Is I know that I'm capable of more. I know that I'm not working my hardest, and it grinds against my soul. So, yeah, that period of time, I'm going, all right. After my bicep fully heals, which is, I was in rehab from about, from December till about Feb. I think early Feb, first week of Feb is when I was officially released from rehab and I had my arm back, still very weak. I would start really working on Tech Sales Academy full time. Oh, not full time, but really lean into it. This would be about Feb 2023, so just over a year ago now. And I would take my sales portfolio seriously because I've got to show the numbers and, win this back. It's a game of two halves. I've got to win this back and show that I am someone that is worth listening to and have authority in this space as a tech seller. So that was a nice, it was pretty cool. Not pretty cool, but it was cool just to be like, all right, let's knuckle the fuck down and get this. Now, around that time, must have been December, just before the Christmas period, I won an award. I won my first Perfect 10. And what this Perfect 10 was, no one explained it to me at the time, but what it's the top quarterly performer globally for each of the main roles inside Cisco's virtual sales business. So I was in the virtual business, which is like the poor cousin of Cisco, if you right there. But it's for the mid-market, smaller business element of Cisco, not the enterprise, which is fine by me. I don't give a shit. Enterprise sucks. So in the virtual business where I was the highest performer I was the highest performer globally in my role as a virtual sales specialist. And they have a bunch of metrics around that. There's software, there's opportunities. They've got a bunch of business performance metrics that they follow. It's their rules, not mine. So I remember very clearly, I was actually, this must have been like the end of December. My bicep is still healing. I'm playing bass for the first time in ages and years. A friend of mine, one of the guitarists in my old band, he's like, hey, I'm doing a gig in Melbourne. It's been ages. I've been in Queensland this entire time. Come down. I need a bass player. Come do it. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go. Let's have a bit of fun and play some music. So I was doing that and I was wagging work. I was just like, because virtually no one can tell if you're working or not. No one gives a shit. So I actually just brought my work laptop to one of the rehearsals, early December. And I'm like, we're having fun, we're rehearsing, figuring songs out. And I'm like, guys, I'm just sorry. I know that I have to sign into we've got an all hands, a global all hands. So all around the world, people are signing in, having a big conference, a virtual conference. And they're announcing these awards and these winners. And what happened was inside WebEx, which is the Teams platform, the communications platform for the business, I saw that I had won the Perfect 10. They had put my face up along with some other people and like, congrats to our first Perfect 10 winners. And I was like, oh, cool, I've won something, I guess. That's pretty neat. I should probably show up for this all hands and show my face as a winner, I mean, I thought it was going to be like a voucher or like a $50 voucher or something like that. So I'm like, okay, here comes the meeting. We go through it, the all hands, blah, blah, blah. Here's your winners. Guys, congratulations. You've won an international trip to one of the cities of your choice. It's all expense paid trip for a week. You get to shadow the leaders of Cisco and learn how other parts of the business operate. I was like, holy shit. I'm going to Amsterdam, baby. This is sick for a week. And I was like, oh, I did not expect that at all. It was pretty rad. Well, I only knew that I was going on an international trip. I didn't know I was going to go to Amsterdam, right? But I was like, oh shit, I just won an all expense paid trip for a week. This is crazy. Just for being good at my job, which was, compared to where I was at Telstra, was never going to happen. Again, top 1% at Telstra. All I got was a flight, 2 nights in Sydney. That's it. So to be going on an international trip after because previously, like I got back from the US, I went to Vegas as part of the global sales kickoff months previously. In August of that year, I'd gone on the sales kickoff on my birthday. Nonetheless, I had spent my birthday in Vegas. And then, went to Austin, New Orleans, came back. 3 months later, I'm being told I'm going to Amsterdam or I'm going overseas again. Fucking sweet, mate. Absolutely killer stuff. And that period of time, December, Jan, Feb, as I'm transitioning away from ACN, I've given it up. I'm going to focus on Tech Sales Academy. That's when I really start to hone in on it. And this is when things start to get interesting and get meaty, is that, I'm going to create this course. And then the first crumb comes out where it's like, hey, you've won an international trip. And then basically how I got to going to Amsterdam specifically was I was speaking to people inside the business and they were like, what are the options that you've got? And I told them, and Amsterdam is one of them. And one of the managers told me, you should go to Amsterdam because Marcelo, the VP of Cisco, the VP of Cisco's virtual sales team, basically the head executive of my business, is going to be there at the same time. Plus the CSAP Academy for Europe is there. So that's where they train all the grads to learn how Cisco is developed. That's where they develop all the graduates and to teach them how to sell and things like that. So I'm like, interesting. I can go there and figure out what they learn and what they know about development and things like that. And what are they taught as new sellers that are supposed to be going through this program to make them the best possible seller that Cisco invests in so they get an ROI so they know how to sell Cisco really well. I'm like, ooh, that could be good. Plus, I love getting high and I want to go to Amsterdam and fucking party for a little bit as well. So I was like, business and pleasure. Hey. And that's what I did, is that I chose Amsterdam. It's a great strategic perspective for Tech Sales Academy. Around January, the new year last year, I was like, okay, this new year is coming. I am going to focus on Tech Sales Academy, which I didn't even know was going to be called Tech Sales Academy at the time. It was still going to be Impact. And I had that in like air quotes, Impact Sales Academy. So I knew I was going to focus on Impact and build that up and release that because I still think that's useful. And then, bang, I am now known as one of the highest performers in that business, and I'm going to go to Amsterdam. And I think I'm going to leave it there, right? We're basically on the hour as we speak, and this is when it starts to get meaty. This is when we start to sense that rise of the story around Tech Sales Academy. And hopefully if I can get this right, we can get this to just all sync up perfectly with the launch of Tech Sales Academy. I've been thinking over the last couple of weeks, how can I sort of meander and make this story, stretch the story out to get it to line up perfectly with the launch? That'd be pretty fun, eh? So I'm going to leave it there. To wrap it up, right? Cisco, adjusting, not feeling like I belonged, failed for the first time, setback. I'm furious. I'm challenged by, hey, you're supposed to be better than this. Get your shit together. And then now these beautiful synchronicities of I'm going to work on Tech Sales Academy and getting all these sales awards, they start to really come together. And it becomes a wild synchronous journey from then on, which we'll talk about next week in more detail. But for now, my friends, if you want to get the course, like I said, I have to delay the course. Perfect opportunity right now. I get to extend the pre-sale. So it's 50% off probably till the end of this month. I might just lock an April 1st date in. I'll think about that later. But 50% off right now, Tech Sales OS. 8 hours of content, 65 lessons. All right, all of these mental, physical, spiritual insights. No, actually, that's not true. That's this podcast. Insights into sales as a 2x top 1% performer. Check that out, techsales.academy. Get yourself a bargain. If not, check out the newsletter. I had to split the newsletter up. I did talk about this last week. I split the newsletter up this week into 2 parts. So it's a detailed lesson on tech sales on the Sunday, which I've just released. And then I've scheduled a performance system about mindfulness for Wednesday. So you're going to get the best of me from tech sales and personal performance. Check that out. There'll be a link in the description on the YouTubes and on the podcasting thing. I should probably have a better name for that. Wherever you get your podcasts, there'll be a link to it. Besides that, thank you for your time and attention, folks. Love you all. See you next week. Ciao for now.